of different stuff. Okay, so we have all that. So we practice our no. So then we go on to the next thing. So we've learned that we're going to say no when we continue to be overwhelmed with too much to do or not enough time, or we've got too much time on our hands. So from there, have you ever noticed that it's usually important that we find the things of not saying no or where we get caught up? And then we have to say to ourselves, with our family or our friends and our stress levels, that we identify that. Whether you learn to say no more often or just learn to say yes on your terms, it's time to release yourself from the burden of pleasing others or not pleasing yourself. Then from there, give yourself time and freedom to be and do what matters to you. Let's get started with this. When is it okay to say no? You have to learn how to identify that. You absolutely must say no when you're stressed or overwhelmed, when you're already doing too much, or when you're sick and tired, or when you're overwhelmed with something like a pandemic or epidemic or something you don't know how to manage. Okay? So from there, you need to remember, you have the right to say no when it's someone else's issue, when you feel taken for granted, when it's something you don't want to do, when it's something you much rather do, or when it takes away from your values, wishes, or is causing you stress, or you need or deserve some time to yourself, or when you need to relax, relate, release, or regroup. Then also, what in your life do you need to do, or when you need to identify when to say no, or when you need to sit down and write down what do I need to do to take downtime or social distance and say I need to take time to be mindful of. Then, what currently stops me from saying no to these things when I need to self-care or say no? Then you have to identify what are my beliefs about saying no or social distancing or giving myself time to self-care or be mindful. Simply answer the questions that would say whatever springs to my mind. Don't worry if it makes you feel contradictory in that, because you have to be able to figure out the statements that are going to get you there to identify all these properties, and then figure out what part of that is making it part of the problem or solving that problem, just to capture anything and everything that comes up for you. So basically, identify people who say yes are likely to do what? People who don't say yes are likely to do what? People who say no are likely to do what? People who don't say no are likely to do what? Once you can identify that, you are able to say, what I've noticed about myself from doing this is that I know whether I can say no or yes easily, or whether I can say no difficultly or easily. And that's part of saying yes or no, or being able to say I can take mindfulness of I have difficulty saying no or yes. And that's the whole part of it. So when you're saying understanding the yes trap, part of that yes trap is that some people will say yes just to get people out their hair, or they'll say it's difficult for me to say no, so they'll say yes. And that is where the yes trap comes in. Why do you say yes when you'd rather say no? How do you benefit from saying yes? Understand the essentials of saying no and valuing your own goals, needs, or self-care needs, or mindful needs of saying no. Just flat out no. You know? And you got to be able to say it with your chest when you're saying no. And here's a quote by Mary Little. There is no pleasure in having nothing to do. The fun is having lots to do and not doing it. And that's part of saying yes all the time and never getting your stuff done, but getting everybody else's stuff done. But you never said no when you needed to say no to them, but you said yes to their stuff. And that's part of the yes trap. So you need to identify this. When I say yes, I feel what? When I say yes, I want other people to think I am what? So example, maybe when you want people to like you, you think you're reliable, hardworking, helpful, or to make yourself indispensable. But are you making yourself indispensable to the point that you're not getting the things that you need to do priority-wise, and then you begin to resent being a yes person? Because there's a point of being a yes person to the point of you being a doormat. Stop doing that. By saying yes when I'm saying no to my own life, or the things that I need to be saying no to you, but yes to me. So when I say no, I feel what? Do you feel guilty when you say no? When I say no, I worry other people will think I am. Feels that out and be able to say to yourself, what do I feel instantly when I say no? Do I feel guilty? Do I feel like I'm less adequate or less efficient or less indispensable? If you feel guilty when you say no, then stop doing that. Be okay saying no. Be okay with this self-care moment in COVID when somebody asks you to do an assignment and you're like, well, hell no, I'm not doing this. Just say no. And say it with your chest, no. I'm going to take me some time off. Forget it. But you don't have to be nasty about it. You can be like, look, I'm taking time off. You can forget it. I'm with my family, and no. And if I said no, I could say yes to these things in my life. What could you make room for that truly is important to you? Lastly, when I say yes, but I really want to say no, I feel what? So you have to make sure that you're consistent in your yes meaning yes and your no meaning no. Do not say yes when you mean no and no meaning when you mean yes. So basically be consistent and not consistently at being consistent at no meaning yes and yes meaning no. Because you'll start being confusing to the other people who are asking you something, and you'll start having confusing, conflicting, inconsistent at being inconsistent, and it's not good. And then identify my biggest fears about saying no are what. Then after that, the other know when you know your priorities. How can we say no assertively when we don't know why we're saying no? You have to be able to identify why we're saying no. Like if you have a time frame and you have an agenda of things that you need to be doing, and you know that you have to get it done in XYZ 3/4, 3/4 amount of time, and you know that you're saying yes to someone else, but you've got this thing on your agenda that has to be done at this amount of time, then you tell that person, no, I have this to be done. If I can get your stuff done afterwards, then yes. But otherwise, no. That's assertively telling someone, I have my stuff to do. If I can get your stuff done afterwards, that's fine. But otherwise, no. In order to say no effectively, you need to be in touch with what's important to you, to know your priorities in life. And you come first. You have to learn when to put yourself first above everybody else's stuff before you compromise yourself in that. Then it's much easier to say no because you're clear on what you want and what others are expecting of you. And then from there, you let other people know that you're top priority, and then they come next, and then it goes down per staircase. And then after that, what's most important to me in life? Then what would I like to spend more time on? Where would I like most to spend less time? What is my top priority this year? What is my top priority this month? And what is my top priority this week? And then if I can have a magic wand, I would do this. Then after that, create more blue sky in your life, and what top three priorities in life are right now. You identify those three things and knock them out each week, each month, each hour, each day. And then how am I meeting my top three priorities in life right now? Once you can identify all of these things, you'll be in a good position to start working your way down and starting to be able to get up, get out, do something. And then you will have a whole mantra of where you're going with that self-care and getting yourself in priority order and being able to have the art of saying no, mindfulness, and getting things done productivity-wise. And post-COVID, being able to go and get out and do something without feeling compromised in your self-care, priority order, and mindfulness, and doing it with a flair, but not to the point that you're compromising your priorities, which is yourself and the things you need to do. Then on top of that, managing the guilt. That's another thing. Managing guilt in all of that is, as you learn to say no, you'll probably feel more guilt. And then assuming that it's not genuine guilt that requires, remedial action from you. Congratulations. This guilt is a sign that you're making important positive changes in your life. Then evaluate each situation. Changing gradually is just fine. Then soften the blow, and then practicing, and then feeling good about yourself as you do that. And in what specific areas and situations in your life that you need to say no more about, and then your new beliefs about that, and then techniques that you can see yourself using, and then your saying no plan, and then on top of that, the power of no, and then your action plans. So with that, hopefully you'll be able to say to yourself, I have all these techniques down, and then being able to have the simple things to go further. Now, in my coaching sessions, I'll give you these different techniques, and we'll go even further deeper into these things. But this is just like a baseline of the power of saying no and using the mindfulness and your self-care tips of all of that, so that you'll be able to go through COVID-19 and with mindfulness and the power of saying no, and also social distancing, and finding a good way for you to be able to use the art of saying no, power of saying no, and social distancing, and also being able to keep your sanity with COVID-19 and also seeing yourself through it without losing your crap and screaming. So literally, we have finished COVID-19.
Finish him.
And we have literally gone out and we sent COVID-19 out with a whole veterans taps. So we have pretty much gotten our self-care tips, our mindful tips, and COVID, we're all going to just batten down the hatches. We're all good to go. So, like, dude, we're good. So pour your drinks up, do what you got to do. Everybody, we're out of here. I'm going to take y'all out of here with some good music. I hope y'all enjoyed the whole session. And this is DonDiva Coaching. See you next time.